Hello, everyone. My name is Aneesh Krishna, and I am a high school freshman presenting to you from San Ramon, California. And as someone who has played musical instruments for the vast majority of my life, music and orchestras are things that I'm very passionate about. And as a result, I've decided to look into the decline of orchestras for my Polygence project. And my presentation is going to go into kind of what has caused this decline, as well as what orchestras can do to recover. Music is a part of our everyday lives, and we hear it in stores, when playing it on our phones, or when humming to a tune that's stuck in our head. It has the ability to connect culture, people, and generations. However, one of the most well-known forms of music is in danger of being lost. Orchestras, specifically symphonic and philharmonic ones, which are the most highly touted, are losing money and audiences. There are over 1,600 orchestras in the US, with the presentation focusing on ones with budgets over 300,000. From 2010 to 14, obviously before COVID, there was already a 10.5% decrease in audience members. There's also been a change in how revenue is generated. Contributed income or donations results in 43% of total income, with earned income or sales being 40% and investment income being the final 17%. From this, we can see the donations are now making up a greater percentage of total income than ever before. Contributed income remained stable pre-COVID, outpacing inflation by 10% from 2006 to 14. This was caused by an increase in individual and trustee donations. The form with trustee donations, sorry, my bad, increasing by 45%. Despite a decrease in volunteer association donations and corporate giving, all other sources would outpace inflation. Earned income would trail inflation by 1% from 2010 to 14, despite non-performance related income, which is a fourth of earned income, outpacing inflation by 25%. Most of the performance-related income comes from the sales of subscriptions, which are a group of concerts, or the sales of single tickets, so a single concert. Subscription sales as a whole trailed inflation by 13% from 2010 to 14. However, customized subscriptions, where customers can choose what concerts they go to, were 13% above inflation, while the traditional and primary model of curated subscriptions, where customers are given a set of concerts to go to, trailed inflation by 15%. Furthermore, orchestras have been raising prices to compensate for decreasing sales, as we can see in the chart, but data suggests that they are within a few dollars of raising this price to a point where customers start walking away in large numbers. Investment income is extremely volatile, vulnerable to economic cycles beyond the orchestra's control. From 2010 to 14, endowment income stayed stable, capital gains fell short of inflation, and interest and dividends decreased by a whole 50%. The volatility of investment income can be seen in how it reacted to the 2009 recession, which is shown on the chart to the bottom right. We can see how in 2010, it crashed and then started to recover, and then it started really picking up in 2011, halved in 2012 due to economic contractions, and again would recover in 2013 to 14. Orchestra expenses have remained pretty stable over time, with almost half the budget going towards their artistic pay and benefits. 70% of expenditure is related to concert production, which is a healthy service expense ratio. Despite an increase in non-personnel costs, a decrease in hall ownership expenses has helped to keep the expenses stable. As we can see from the graph, the contributed and earned income remaining stable over time, orchestras have great reliance on investment income. CUNA, or the change in unrestricted net assets, shows how much money an orchestra has on hand. This solidly increased from 2006 to 14. In 2014, only 18% of orchestras reported deficits, compared to 40% in 2010. However, this extreme reliance on investment income causes vulnerability, as we can see in years like 2009, where investment income crashed, and so too did the bottom line. Assets over time have increased while liabilities have decreased, which has led to good debt ratios, most of these assets coming in the form of investments and securities. Generally, larger orchestras have proportionally more of their assets in restricted funds compared to smaller orchestras. During COVID. Orchestras survived primarily off of donations. There were increased donations and gifts compared to previous years in months like November and December. This graph compares 2020 to 21 and 2018 to 19 data, showing signs of recovery from COVID. There's a large increase in revenue from May to July of 2021 as COVID restrictions began to decrease and tickets were put on sale. While sales did decrease due to the Delta variant, it is evident that orchestras can and have bounced back from COVID. I'm now going to go into some of the things orchestras can do to improve their financial situation. And it's essential that orchestras can improve their contributed and earned income revenue, since the precarious position they are currently in means that a dip in any income stream can cause major damages, and they don't want to be as reliant on investment income as they currently are. One way orchestras can increase audiences is by targeting the millennial market. Millennials are found to be less price sensitive than other generations, being willing to pay high prices for a premium product. Furthermore, the amount of millennials listening to classical music is growing. In March of 2019, the streaming service Deezer reported that 43% of new subscribers to their most popular classical music playlist were millennials. The millennial market can be targeted with increased advertising, bring-a-friend programs, and greater use of social media, instead of the emphasis on discounts that orchestras have been using in recent years. One of the main reasons for customers not buying subscriptions is lack of flexibility. Customized subscriptions normally contain fewer concerts than curated ones. However, by uncoupling customizability and package size, we can increase flexibility. This chart shows hypothetical product mixes, with red being the ones in existence and the blue being simulated. We can see from the chart that diversifying package types can lead to greater revenue, as we can see with the example of single ticket, small or large, curated or customized, which is kind of completely uncoupling the whole concept of customizability and package size. And that obviously is leading to greater revenue with similar uptake to things that we already have. The one-time payment of subscriptions can cause sticker shock, with customers thinking that the purchase is simply not worth it. We can change this by changing the payment method to monthly installments instead. Furthermore, an opt-out feature similar to products like Netflix can also be adopted rather than the traditional opt-in. Furthermore, to heighten the audience-orchestra connection, orchestras can provide recommendations as to what concerts to listen to, and this can be based on things like past purchases, general survey data, or data from surveys filled out by the specific customer. Flex vouchers and memberships. Flex vouchers allow customers to purchase tickets and choose what concert to attend at a later date. This greatly increases flexibility and customer satisfaction. To build more of a connection, new types of membership unrelated to ticket buying can be offered. These would be of low expense to the orchestra, with examples including a VIP lounge, the ability to meet with performers post-concert, or platinum memberships. Interestingly, adding words like platinum, which confer exclusivity, is simulated to have greater effect than anything else, allowing orchestras to keep the membership affordable for both themselves and customers. The graph we can see here shows the projected impact of adding various memberships, and we can see a clear increase in revenue when various membership types are given. Fundraising works very well for orchestras, having generated $8.96 for every dollar spent in 2014 and $8.42 for every dollar spent in 2017. As a result, orchestras should focus on obtaining revenue from fundraising. One of the biggest fundraising events for orchestras are fundraising galas. To maximize the revenue gained from these, galas should be efficient, with impactful, concise speeches given by people with personal connections to the orchestra. Galas can obtain greater attendance and accessibility by making the event slightly less formal, helping to make it more enjoyable for a lot of people, as well as offering a cheaper ticket option, for example, a $150 cocktail ticket that provides part of the experience as opposed to a $500 full ticket. Some of these changes were made by the California Symphony in the year of 2019, I believe, which helped them gain substantially more revenue from this gala. With COVID restrictions and fear finally going away, orchestras are finally beginning to see their return to the pre-virus state. However, there's still certainly fear about the virus. To mitigate this, orchestras can show their vaccination rates, which were 95% in 2021, significantly higher than the US average of about 69 to 70%. With COVID being far less of an issue, orchestras can start returning to form. However, they do need to adopt changes to ensure that they can keep generating revenue. Orchestras need to change how they operate. And if they don't, we may end up losing a large part of the music we love. Thank you.
Anish, thank you for that. Very interesting intersection of music and business. I have a question, kind of personally. Do you have an example through either personally or in your research of an orchestra out there that is doing really well or kind of ahead of the curve in terms of some of the stuff that you're mentioning? And what are some of the things that they might be doing?
Yeah, I would say definitely in regards to stuff like the fundraising gala, orchestras like the California Symphony, which I mentioned, have been definitely ahead of the curve regarding stuff like that and kind of willing to try new things out. And also, generally, what I've noticed is a lot of the smaller orchestras in this demographic are able to adopt these changes more easily, whereas the bigger orchestras are kind of very deep rooted in these old traditions of like, we have to generate revenue this way, and it's causing them to kind of fall behind, stuff like that. Whereas newer, smaller orchestras are able to more quickly adapt.
Very interesting. I'm also curious, you did a little bit of like a generational breakdown. So you looked at millennials. A couple of questions there. Yeah, one is you mentioned that millennials tend to be a little bit less price sensitive than other generations. So I'm curious, why do you think that might be?
I think this largely goes back to millennials being willing to pay larger prices for things that they view as kind of a premium kind of product. And we see this a lot with stuff like concerts as well, like music concerts, and them being willing to pay high prices to attend those. And I think that's where a lot of it stems from. Whereas older generations not really being used to that kind of thing, I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because older generations might have more disposable income, but just aren't attenuated to paying for experiences in the same way.
Yeah.
Interesting. And last question, how do you think that orchestras, looking even more forward, how can they appeal to your generation or Gen Z?
I think one of the major things which wasn't discussed in the presentation as well was kind of this is something a lot of orchestras have started to do, with kind of branching out the variety of music they play, not just sticking with purely classical, but maybe you start going into kind of movie music, something a lot of orchestras have been doing, uh, stuff like that. I think would be a big help. And then obviously also making the whole kind of experience, and I talked about this a bit with the fundraising galas, making the entire thing a little bit less of a formality and a formal kind of occasion and more just like a great experience, I would say, is definitely a thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I can think of like a few different concerts where it's like they'll play Disney, like orchestra will play Disney or something along those lines. So interesting. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Anish.